This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 130. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargame experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop fixed 2 units in their catalog, and I entered myself in a Warhammer tournament. But first, have you ever found that you need your own website, but having to design all 4 corners yourself is intimidating? Well, luckily, today's sponsor, Squarespace, is here to help. Squarespace makes it easy and fun to dive headfirst into website design with simple-to-use features and professional support from start to finish. Start by looking through one of the dozens of templates on offer to see which one resonates with you, or create your own using the next-gen Fluid Engine Designer. Every detail is customizable to fit your website needs. Dragging and dropping allows you to create the website that you envision. Squarespace also provides a fast solution to creating a storefront online, whether your products are physical, digital, or service-based. Now, selling your custom merch is easier than ever with Squarespace. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters. When you're ready to dive in head first, you can follow the link in the description below or simply type in squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. One thing I absolutely never thought I would see happen is Games Workshop make a unit of Age of Sigmar Fire Slayers that I actually really enjoy, because the Fire Slayers, of course, are the dwarf-wearing diaper faction, and they've never jived with me. I've never thought they were that cool. It was mostly the diapers. It's just, there's something about them that I really don't connect with, but they just came out with a Warcry team. A Warcry team for the Fire Slayers, and holy cow, they are absolutely rad. Number 1, no diapers. Some of them are wearing skirts, and they're also wearing cloaks. They're actually wearing quite a bit of armor, which helps a ton. And they just did such a better job painting them. Like, the Fire Slayers on the Games Workshop web store, over on the Age of Sigmar side, they have very light skin and very carrot orange hair, and it just makes them feel lame. But the paint job on these guys, they feel like fire. They are so cool. Their eyes are glowing orange embers. Their hair looks like fire. It's painted in ways to actually kind of make it look like fire, and the tips of the darkest spots look like burnt. Like they're kind of crispy and charred. It's really, really cool. And of course, they have the cutest little magma drake. Oh, he's such a good boy. Oh, he's so cute. It's just, every now and then Games Workshop knocks it out of the ballpark with one of their little creatures. Obviously, we all remember the crab, which was, I think, model of the year in 2019 or 2020. Greatest model of all time. The Games Workshop, when they actually did their poll for best model, I think they switched it and they made it Be'lakor on purpose because they couldn't have it actually be the little Age of Sigmar crab. But we all know that the crab actually got the most votes, and they just decided to swap it with Be'lakor. Oh, this little magma dragon, he's so adorably cute. And the leader of this faction, or the leader of this force, has 2 little eggs attached to his shoulders, which is a really, really nice motif of, like, he's the guy, he's the papa bear taking care of the little dragon eggs. When a dragon egg hatches, you get your little tiny dragon cub, which is so super crazy cute. These guys, their poses are so incredibly dynamic. They added just a little bit of a blue tinge to the silver steel of their weapons, which stands out really, really well against the warmth of their skin and their beards and their hair. It all is working really well. Their weapons are chunky and thick, and the dwarves themselves are chunky and thick. I really, really like this team. There's been a bunch of Warcry teams that have made me, that have gotten me so close to pulling the trigger. I don't buy Warcry teams because I'm not currently playing Warcry. I really like the game. It's a really fun game, but as cool as the teams are, I have so many projects on my plate right now. I can't make it happen. But man, these guys are so cool. I just want to paint them. And that is a feeling that has gotten me into trouble, but also saved my butt sometimes. Because sometimes painting can be boring, especially if it's like, I've been on a Space Marine kick and I've painted black armor after black armor after black armor after black armor. It's fun to change things up. And if there's ever a model where it's like, I just want to sit down and paint that right now, I think that's a good feeling to chase, because it's really good to paint different types of models because it really helps you grow as a painter. I'm gonna pick up these guys. I'm gonna pick these guys up. I'm gonna paint them. I'm gonna try to be as close to the box art as I possibly can because I love the box art. These guys are absolutely dope. I guess I technically have 2 Warcry teams right now. I have a box of Boner Boys new on sprue, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, which actually I just have a box of Ossiarch Bone Reapers. And what's great about Warcry is they have really cool bespoke teams, very much in line with like Warhammer 40k Kill Team, but you can also just build Warcry teams and Warcry warbands out of pretty much every like infantry option for Age of Sigmar proper. So I got Boner Boys, and then I also have the Seraphon Chameleons and Pterodactyls, which I also need to assemble and paint. Oh, I have too many models. Maybe I'll paint these guys first. And that will give me the kick I need to get my other 2 teams put together, and then I'll really be able to start getting some games in. I absolutely love these guys. I have never put much thought into the Fire Slayers. I don't like them for the most part. The Age of Sigmar ones are lame. They look bad. I do think if you painted those up to match these guys a little better, you kind of darkened and warmed up their skin, I think it would help a lot. But man, these models, I am absolutely in love with these models. But speaking of Games Workshop improving things, I don't like the Fire Slayers, but I really, really like these guys. Games Workshop dramatically improved them. I really like the Mark III armor for Horus Heresy, and Games Workshop has revamped the Heresy armor. Back in the day when I was building tons and tons of tactical marines, like I built so many tactical marines, I was starting to get a little bit bored, so I actually bought a box of tactical marines and a box of the Mark III armor for Horus Heresy, and then I kind of just like spread all the parts out and assembled models like at random. So some of them would have like a Mark III backpack, a Mark III helmet, a Mark III left arm, and it was a lot of fun. And I really, really like that kit. I think everything about it was great. And Games Workshop has revamped it, which is, they don't often swap out plastic kits. Or like at least, and especially not plastic kits that aren't really that old. When did the Heresy pattern armor come out? Was it like 2016? It's not an incredibly old kit. It still works really well. The scale is a little bit off because they're kind of scaling up the size of Horus Heresy. But the new Mark III armor is immaculate. It's the same. It's the same in almost every way, but everything about it is just fixed. It's just perfected, and it looks really good. The first thing that jumped out at me was the bolters. I really like these bolters with the exposed bullets, and they're actually kind of good looking exposed bullets. Games Workshop has done a lot of exposed bullets over the years, and often they look like Oscar Mayer wieners. Just wrapped up in that plastic, they're just cylinders. And it looks fine. I mean, usually you just throw a tiny little bit of silver, of like gold paint in there and you call it a day. But actually having the casing and the bullet separate with like a little line in the middle in that magazine looks really good. And just the proportions of that bolter look great. It's just so good looking. I do like the look of like the call pattern bolters, the new Primaris stuff. I mean, it's pretty much just a stretched regular bolt gun, and it's a little bit more tactical, and it actually has like Picatinny rail on it, and there's definitely something to it, but I like the old chunky weirdness of these bolters. I absolutely love them. All I want to do is take a little bit of wash and just drip it on those exposed bullets and just have them come to life. They're a little bit chunkier. I really like the Sergeant with the Power Fist because the Power Fist actually looks proportional and well designed compared to typical Power Fist, because usually a Space Marine Power Fist is classically basically as big as their torso, where this is probably just like 2 times, maybe 2.5 times as big as his regular hand. So it looks like he does have a working hand that could hold stuff and carry stuff, but it's also a power gauntlet. Everything about these guys just looks great. Their heads are a little bit squished and fattened, and it makes for a really characterful look. The backpack tubes have been bulked up a little bit. Their legs are actually have hips. Like the classic Space Marines doing their cowboy poses. They've got that big honkin' cod piece and then just kind of 2 legs sticking out on either side of it. These guys look phenomenal. I'm not that interested in 30k because I play 40k, and 30k is just 40k but oops all Space Marines. It does have some really cool rules in it, like every unit gets to do an activation if something engages them. So I would like to give 30K a try. My dream would be I meet some folks who bought all of the stuff for Horus Heresy and they just let me try it out. What'll probably end up happening is I might collect an army. I want to, if you sat me down and you're like, you're gonna play 30K right now, I would want to say Word Bearers, because I like the idea of the Word Bearers. I think it'd be fun to paint that kind of burgundy red and do the freehanding of all of their little runes and symbols. I do actually own Horus, like the character figure of Horus, which I need to paint one day because it's an absolutely glorious model. And it would feel a little bit too bad to have a Word Bearers army, but then actually just have the hero for Horus. So I should probably do the Sons of Horus, or maybe like a Lunar Wolvesy Sons of Horus where they still have the white armor. It would be really cool to have a sea of these cool kind of tealy green guys with big old Horus just sitting there right in the middle. And they painted these guys up in Horus's colors, and I really like them. It's so hard. And speaking of things that are really cool, new Horus Heresy starter box. The Age of Darkness was the old starter box that you were kind of sorta supposed to split between two people, but really that one box was the start of a perfect Heresy army. And this is the new one. I kind of wish it comes with all Mark III. I kind of wish they split it between Mark III and Mark V, because it's kind of annoying because tons and tons of people started the game with the Mark V armor, which is great for certain factions of the Horus Heresy, like, Raven Guard and White Scars. But some factions really do fit better with the older marks of armor, Mark II, Mark IV. And so I'm sure tons and tons of people have collected Imperial Fist and Salamanders with the Mark V armor, when really, if they somehow could have held out for a box they didn't know would ever happen, now they would have their guys in the somewhat more appropriate Mark III. Although, Warhammer 30K is very different from Warhammer 40K. And so, yes, you do kind of have these certain factions prefer certain types of armor, but the legions were hundreds of thousands of Marines. So it is very reasonable that your 30 could have different armor marks that aren't necessarily like the one you think of when you think of that particular chapter, because out of 1,000 Space Marines, your 30 or 40 that you have in your army is kind of a big chunk of that army. But for the Heresy, your little army is nothing. Your little army is peanuts. Your little army is something that would get wiped out in every single battle of the Horus Heresy. Really cool box. It comes with the Deredeo Dreadnought and the Land Raider Proteus. The Land Raider Proteus is a very fun model because it's just a recreation of the original Rogue Trader Retro Dreadnought, which was 4 pieces of beige plastic that just barely fit together. And then they recreated it kind of perfectly and made it really nice and really plastic and fit in with the current design aesthetics of the Horus Heresy. And the Deredeo Dreadnought, which is also really fun to say, is an absolutely awesome unit. And I'm super, super glad that I got my hands on a resin one seconds before it was discontinued and made into perfect, beautiful plastic that is probably a lot cheaper than what I paid for the Forge World resin. Games Workshop. It's a lot of fun being a fan of your game sometimes, but this box is really cool. I still don't think I'm interested in the Horus Heresy. Honestly, I'm more interested in the Heresy Legions, the epic scale Horus Heresy game, because I think it would scratch a fun itch in the Warhammer, in the hobby, because I've always been interested in a little game called Drop Zone Commander, and Drop Zone Commander is essentially Warhammer Epic. You got drop ships, tiny little infantries, lots and lots of big vehicles, mechs, and airplanes. So, although I also would just like to try Drop Zone Commander, as opposed to getting the very, very expensive Warhammer 30K Epic version. So, I really like what they did with the armor. I think it's absolutely stunning. But speaking of things that are just good, I did so much hobbying this week, and it feels like I didn't accomplish anything because I sort of didn't accomplish anything. I built so many models for my Black Templar and for my Tyranid army because I really want to start playing 2,000 point games of Warhammer 40K. I've been playing so many 1,000 point games and getting absolutely demolished. Mostly because I keep going up against the exact same Imperial Guard list that just spams indirect fire and is absolutely kind of miserable to play against. But I think at 2,000 points, I have a much better chance at winning because I think the game will be much more balanced because we're playing with in the same space with the same number of objectives and the same number of things to do. I'll just have way more units to actually do those things with. So I'm working on my Necron, or I'm working on my Tyranids, I'm working on my Space Marines, and I've got like 5 different units, 90% finished, because some of them still need sand on the bases, some of them still need to have their flying stands fixed. I have a lot of gargoyles in the works, and gargoyles are a bummer because they use the Games Workshop clear acrylic flying stands, which are, in my opinion, the worst thing Games Workshop has ever done. Games Workshop is known for being a little bit controversial sometimes with what they do, but really, my big problem with the clear plastic flight stands is that they're just bad. I don't think they look good. They snap all the time. They snap every single time. And in theory, they're clear, so they're invisible, but they're the furthest thing from invisible because they're super shiny, clear plastic. So underneath every single one of my guys is a Lego lightsaber. So I'm trying to figure out a smart way to replace those with something. I've got some brass rod on the way. Everything is taking a very long time, and it's frustrating me because I don't feel like I'm actually accomplishing anything. So everything on my hobby desk is going to get finished. And then after that, I'm actually going to start scheduling my time and trying to work on one thing at a time, getting it finished, and before I move on to the next thing. Because I have a ton on my plate and I could actually use some help with what I should work on next, because I have a 2,000 points list ready to go for my Tyranids. And as soon as I'm done with that, I'm kind of gonna be done with the Tyranids for a while. I'm gonna play the spit out of them, but I'm not gonna be adding more units to them, because I actually have 3 more Warhammer armies that I would love to be playing with. And I don't know which one I should tackle first. I cannot do them all at the same time, and so I'm just gonna try to knock them out one by one. I have Death Guard, Grey Knights, and Dark Eldar. I have all 3 of these armies. I've been collecting them kind of slowly for a while, but all 3 of these armies I would love to play with on a tabletop, particularly the Death Guard, because they just got a major change to their detachment rule in the new errata that came out, where their plague, just aura that surrounds them and slowly grows larger as the game rounds progress. It used to just cause -1 toughness. Now you get to pick from a list of more things it can do. And so it just feels so fun and flavorful that your Death Guard, they're slow, but as they march towards you, the opponent's army gets worse. I think that's a really, really fun, flavorful mechanic, because it's not just, oh, my Death Guard get really good when I apply the right buffs and bonuses to them. It's just my Death Guard are what they are. They're just big, tough Space Marine dudes, but the opponents get so much worse. And it helps to dissuade from being charged and attacked in close combat. Really excited for that. The Grey Knights have so many hop on, hop off the board shenanigans with deep striking. It's phenomenal and looks like it's gonna be incredibly fun to play, especially with my army, which is all Terminators. I purchased so many Grey Knight Terminators when Grey Knight Terminators were garbage in the game. And now it doesn't seem like they're gonna be very garbage. It seems like they're gonna be really, really cool. So I really wanna get a move on with that army. Also, I haven't been working on my Grey Knights because I already have a Space Marine army that I'm playing with, my Black Templar, but with this deep striking shenanigans and all Terminators, I think it'll feel different enough to feel like a different, unique army that'll be fun to play with on the tabletop. It's just a whole entire army of nothing but Terminators and Dreadnoughts and Stormraven gunships. I might have to see how it works out mathematically, but I might drop the Stormraven gunships, because if I'm just deep striking everything onto the board, I probably don't need dedicated transports. And the Stormravens are pretty expensive point-wise. But it might be fun to play with them just because they're big, dumb flyers with tons of las cannons, and they're just the shape of these things is like the Big Mac box from McDonald's with wings on it. And I just sort of want them. Yeah, I might keep those around just for the funsies. And Dark Eldar is an army that I've never played anything like the Dark Eldar. I'm not a particularly big fan of Eldar, but the Dark Eldar are really, really cool. And their whole thing is they're a really, really good shooting army of glass cannons. They're incredibly fragile, but with their Raiders and Venoms, you can actually do reactionary re-embarkments. So you can, like, in a turn, you can have a guy hop out and then do something, and then maybe in your opponent's turn, you can actually have them hop back in, and then the next turn you're moving that transport. It's like they're just hopping all around the place and taking full advantage of their transports, which in 40K, transports are usually pretty lame. Either you throw a combat unit into them, and then you drive that sucker off the board, up the board, let it just get shot at, and then the next turn you hop them out and you charge, and it just feels kind of lame. Or you have a shooty army in them and you just want to keep them in the transport so you can use the firing deck to fire out of it while keeping your unit safe. Transports don't feel super fun and flavorful. For the Dark Eldar, they absolutely do, and I really want to experience what the Dark Eldar have to offer on the tabletop. So those are the 3 armies I have ready to rock and roll. I just need to build and paint them, which is a monumental task, but what do you guys think? What what would be the most interesting thing that I could work on next? What do you want to see on the channel? Death Guard, Grey Knights, or Dark Eldar? I love all three of them dearly. I'm definitely going to do all three of these armies. I just don't know which one I want to play first. I've been playing tons and tons of Black Templar. I got my Tyranids coming up quick. I have my Necrons. They need a lot of work because I collected all of these Necrons in high school. So I'm basically 3 big Necron releases behind in terms of units. Like my entire army is almost all like warriors, wraiths, ghost arcs, and overlords. I don't have any of the cool stuff. The cryptex, some of the new vehicles. I don't have tomb blades. I don't have anything good right now. The only thing I have that's really good is warriors and immortals. Literally, I'm missing everything. I don't have any Catans. I don't have any monoliths. So yeah, the Necrons also need a lot of work. But speaking of those Necrons, I actually bought a Necron unit, the Canoptek Doom Stalker. And the reason I purchased this is because I was at my local Warhammer store and they are coming up having a tournament for Combat Patrol. And I really want to get really good at Warhammer 40k. I feel like I'm getting kind of good at Warhammer 40k because I keep playing the game over and over and over. I keep reading the rules. I keep learning more. I keep making better use of my stratagems. I just keep losing over and over and over again because I keep playing the same Imperial Guard list that's really lame to play against. But I'm going to be entering a tournament for Combat Patrol, and I'm really excited. I'm going to take the Necron Combat Patrol, and I'm gonna make my friends help me by playing the other Combat Patrols so that I can start to like learn how to synergize and play against them all. The lovely thing about Combat Patrol is I know all of the lists that I could possibly be going up against, and I probably know exactly which ones I'm gonna be going up against because some factions are a little bit more popular than others, but I think it'll be a really, really fun way to learn a little bit more about competitive Warhammer 40k in a very controlled environment because Combat Patrol is fantastic. I don't think it's caught on as hard as I think we all expected it to, just because Warhammer 40k 10th edition is also here, so everybody wants to get good at Warhammer 10th edition and play these big, full, proper armies. But Combat Patrol is really cool. It kind of harkens back to 8th edition's power level, a sort of simplified way to play Warhammer 40k, and everybody collectively ignored it. And I think that was reasonable because it was literally just normal 40k, but without a lot of the list building aspects, and it didn't feel particularly balanced. Where Combat Patrol, it tells you exactly what models to take, and presumably they're all balanced against each other. I've still heard like rumors that like the Votann Combat Patrol is really weak. Although, well, would the changes affect the Combat Patrol? Because Combat Patrol is different. The units in Combat Patrol are slightly different. A lot of the bigger, cooler units in the Combat Patrol boxes have a lot of their units, or a lot of their special abilities and special rules removed to make everything a little bit more balanced and fair. I've played Combat Patrol and it was really, really fun. It just moved really, really quick because of how 10th edition works and the different phases of the game. So I really like Combat Patrol and I'm really excited to give it a try. And hopefully playing lots and lots of games of Combat Patrol will help me get good at 40k so that I can come back strong with my big ol' armies. It's gonna be great. It's also been a very long time since I painted a Necron. Man, the last time I painted a Necron, it was for a video. It was putting together, like fixing up the whole army like 2 years ago. Dang, it has been a minute. I'm excited to paint a Necron. One single Necron. I'm gonna scooch my Black Templar and my Tyranids to the side just for one afternoon and get this model all ready to rock and roll so that I'm ready for the tournament. And leave in the comments below, what do you think is gonna happen at the tournament? Am I gonna be victorious and come home with the little glass thing that says you won the 40k tournament and the decal sheet? You actually get a special decal sheet that is designed around the Leviathan box. So it is like Ultramarines who have fought Tyranids, and it comes with really cool decals. Honestly, I really do want that thing. So I want to do well at the tournaments. No experience whatsoever playing in a tournament or really playing particularly competitively, but let me know in the comments. Do you think I got a good shot, or do you think I'm gonna get absolutely wrecked? One thing that Combat Patrol doesn't tell you specifically what to do is how to lay out your terrain. And if you need some terrain for your games of Warhammer 40k, then our Patreon is the place to be. Over there, we have a brand new STL terrain set every single month. This month, we have the Gothic Administratum, a grimdark cathedral that can be constructed complete or destroyed. We also make extra episodes of Eons of Battle where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and give some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting. And we have a tier you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines and you can join the crusade. I have so incredibly much painting to do, and honestly it wouldn't be that bad if I only had to paint, but building models takes a very long time. I really like to build models, but I never get to enjoy the process because I always have to absolutely rush through it to get to the painting. But yeah, I have a lot of work to do. Thanks for watching.